Damn, Nick. Just sent you a note saying, sorry I can't get involved in the debate. I'm supposed to be outside changing the oil on my car right now, but in sending that, I stumbled across this video, which I hadn't opened and seen, and not only the content, but the fact that it's, 6 days old, and I haven't done anything about that. I said, screw it. I'll still get changing the oil, and I have been doing a bunch of other things because I am leaving for Vermont tomorrow. So thanks, and we get right here into the Kucinich bill. Okay, so I'm going to try to respond quickly. And you used my bullet points, which I used for my talk. Say full reserve banking is okay. I mean, you're an Austrian. Full reserve banking should be more than okay. Most Austrians believe in full reserve banking. I know there are some who believe in fractional reserve banking. But so you believe in full reserve banking, but you also, it sounded to me like, yeah, but you want the banks to have the option of having fractional reserve banking. Well, let me just tell you that if there's an option to have fractional reserve banking, what bank's not going to have fractional reserve banking? Tell me. Think about it. Now, either there's full reserve banking or there isn't full reserve banking, because you got to understand what full reserve banking means. Okay? If it is there, it's there, and that means that all banks have to operate on a fully reserved basis. You made the comment about, well, I want to be able to use my deposits, okay, and go to the bank, and go to my bank, and go to whatever bank I like, the way they're basically, to be honest with you, running their bank, okay? And that's totally true, okay? That's exactly what you would do. In fact, there will be much more of that when we go to full reserve banking, okay? Just by going to full reserve banking means the banks are going to only be using their depositors' money for lending, okay? That right there means that the depositors are going to be paying attention to where they're lending their money. Why? Because it's not going to be guaranteed by the government, okay? It's going to be guaranteed by sound banking practices and nothing but sound banking practices, which is something that should appeal to libertarians, okay? So having said that, this is what I want to point out. You can't have fractional reserve and full reserve. If you have fractional reserve, it will all go to fractional reserve because nobody's going to want to go to a bank that's giving a less return. And risk and reward, okay, there's going to be more risk, going to be more reward. No. Please get that through your head. It will either be full reserve or fractional reserve banking. There will be full reserve banking. And you say, well, what if they want to? What about the freedom if they want to? Well, if you have a money system, then you're going to have a system of money. You got into the Monetary Commission, Monetary Authority, okay, the Independent Monetary Authority. You read the bill. I hope you read the whole bill, and you read why it has to be both independent and autonomous from every decision of not only the Congress, because you use the Congress, but also the administration. That there's no action by the Monetary Authority that can be contravened by either the Congress or the administration. That's like a fourth arm of government. Okay. Now you go about creating this huge, bureaucracy because of come from a tradition of government hating. Okay. But once you understand that we're going to have the national economy, and the national economy needs a national monetary system, then you need to have a rational national monetary system. So you have the independence of the Monetary Authority, the real independence. It cannot be influenced, okay? And if it doesn't do its job, and it has a job that's involved in economics, okay, not in politics. Its job is involved in economics. It is to have adequate money supply to allow the economy to grow. If the economy is going to grow, the money supply has to grow, okay? That's where I part company with the Austrians, okay? You want it to grow only according to how the gold grows. And that ain't going to work, okay? Well, we'll talk about that later because we just want to stick with the Kucinich bill. So you also not quite understanding how the role of the Monetary Authority plays into the budgeting process and what goes on with the government. It's not the government that tells the Monetary Authority how much money they need. It's the Monetary Authority that tells the government how much money the economy needs in order to grow. You see? That's the thing. And you can do it think about it real simple because you know, in an ordinary growing economy where, you know, population grows and, you know, things grow and there's going to be an increase in the economy. I'm just going to say of 2%, okay, or 3%, okay. You know, Milton Friedman said, you know, just let it grow at 3 to 5% a year. Have the range. There's going to be a range, and that range is going to be quite tight, you know, because why? Because the things that change in the economy don't change that much year to year, okay? So I'm just going to use this number and derive it, make sure that you understand the mechanics of how it works. We have approximately $13 trillion economy. It's going down, you know, but it's going to grow next year by 2% or 3%, say 3%, so 3 times 13, $390 billion. We need $390 billion in the economy in order for it to grow 3% next year. What happens with that number? That's all the monetary authority does. And it has to use matrix that are wide open, all set out, very clear what's going in. So there's no crap in and out. You know what's going in, and then you know what's coming out. And when it comes out, it says 390 billion. Okay, 390 billion is the number, Mr. Treasurer, Secretary of the Treasury. Okay, you got to think about that one. So that when they build the budget, you know, the first thing that goes there is new money creation is 390 billion, right? So now if they've got that $4 trillion economy, that's not the number that you used, okay, but it's actually very close to the difference that you used, which was 0.4 trillion, okay, that number goes in there. It goes in there after the government's done all the budgeting, the expenditure budgeting, okay. The 400 billion goes in there as new money, and the rest is taxation. Okay, so what have we done? All we've done is allowed the economy to grow by $400 billion next year. That's what we've enabled. The government spends it into existence. Okay, it doesn't cause inflation or deflation by, you know, von Mises' definition of what inflation is. Okay, that is to say, there is a need for the money in the economy, therefore it cannot be inflationary. So that's you know, deals with the Congress interference, the administration interference, the inflation. There's no inflation, and then you got into this thing about it interferes in the market for federal securities. And all I can tell you is we are doing away with the market for federal securities. We're going to do it in an orderly manner, transparent, so that you can see it coming. And I recognize that for people like myself, who have a little bit of government securities as my, you know, my nest egg, okay, that I need to get something that replaces it that's just as secure. That's the issue. That's why I'm in government securities, okay, because it's a secure investment for me. And I think that the government ought to allow itself to be the banker for the people that want to do the savings. But not that they want to borrow it, but that the government takes it as a savings and provides a return back upon it. Okay? Let that account just be there. It's not meant to allow the government to do anything that it doesn't want to do. There's going to be so much more control over the government, okay, that you can't see because it's a government solution and you're opposed to government solutions. But hopefully you won't be for forever, okay? I mean that. So we dealt with the market and Fed securities. And the last thing he said about taking over the Fed, okay? Now, the Fed was created by the Congress, okay? It allowed the Fed to set up the Federal Reserve banking system. It allowed the setup of the regional banks. Really, the regional banks, the stock in the regional banks is all of the, you know, the assets of the Federal Reserve system. So we're going to buy them back. You know, those assets have value. We're going to buy them back at their net market value. That's what it says we're going to do. We're not going to take anything from anybody. Okay? The only way you can resort to full reserve banking is to get banks to stop creating money. And the way that you do that is you take away their existing Federal Reserve charters. Okay? Not the banks, just the regional banks. You don't take anything away from the banks, by the way. You made that comment, the member banks. It doesn't touch the member banks, okay? It doesn't touch the member banks. The only thing that it takes away from the member banks is their ability to create money. Their ability to create money. If they have stock in the regional bank, their stock will be returned to them pari passu, dollar for dollar, Nick. Okay? So there's no, there's no runaway federal authority. Most of it's going to be in a actual computer program that's going to be open to the public to know what's going in it and what's coming out of it. Okay? It's not going to be a huge bureaucracy, but it's going to be completely independent, as it needs to be in order to have a rational money system. Okay? We're not going to create inflation. We're not going to allow inflation. If you read the language, it says it to be non-inflationary or deflationary. Okay? Nor deflationary, and that's key. Okay? So we take care of that. There's no interference by the Congress in the money and letting them run away and cause inflation in the economy. There's no we're going to do away with federal borrowing. Do it, but in an orderly manner, paying it off when it matures. And we can, because we roll it over, we can determine when that is. Okay, think about that. And the Fed being privately owned, the banks are going to still be, all the banks are going to still be privately owned. Every one of them. We're nationalizing the money system, Nick. Now, sorry, but I got to run, and I may have seemed a little curt, for which I apologize. But I'm going to try to get out and change the oil on my car, and maybe when I come back in later, I'm going to take a look at another one. But I haven't looked at those other videos, Nick, to tell you the truth. I hope this all works. Take care.